Hi, everyone. I'm Matthew DeSantis,
And I'm Kaylie Shapiro.
and welcome to the morning after as we talk the road to the Kentucky Derby.
And the Kentucky Oaks.
Well, hey, everyone. How you doing? Matthew DeSantis here with my colleague Kaylie Shapiro, and we are coming to you the morning after what was a really exciting weekend of racing for the Triple Crown and for the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks here on NYRA Bets YouTube. Kaylie, how are you doing today? What a weekend of racing.
What a weekend of racing. Definitely jam-packed. It was really nice, actually. I mean, I know it was because of cancellations, but I thought it was fun to have, a different race to look forward to every day this weekend. So that was a lot of fun and definitely saw some big performances yesterday, in particular, last night. That definitely shook things up a little bit on the trail to the Oaks and the Derby. So very exciting
Absolutely.
week of racing.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to start doing these Road to the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks 2 times a week. We're going to do kind of a Monday recap that's a little bit more casual. Listen, I got my Diet Mountain Dew. We're still warming up here. I think Kaylee's you got your coffee? Oh, you got your Derby 150. Look at that. Uh,
Oops.
the Oaks 150, even more appropriate. I love that. So, listen, we got our, we're just warming up here and kind of reacting to a lot of big races from the weekend. But listen, I want to encourage you to press that like button and subscribe to NYRA Bets YouTube today. We have a lot of great content. Subscribing is completely free of cost and just notifies you when new videos are dropping on the channel, whether those are race previews, full card analyses, handicapping and betting tutorials, weekly programming like this one, and so much more. Like I said, we're going to start doing Monday morning recaps and kind of taking the totality of what we saw over the weekend, talking about that. And then Kaylee and I will be back later in the week to preview some of the upcoming preps. And we have a bunch that we're going to talk about towards the end of this episode in terms of getting you ready for that big next Saturday and a bunch of 50-point preps. But listen, Kaylee, it was a big weekend. And like you said, spaced out. We had prep races Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And,
Mhm.
hey, why not start over in, Dubai and in Maidan with one of the prep races? And so we had a UAE Oaks, which I'll be honest, I kind of forgot about.
Yeah, I did a little bit too. And then to be honest, I was so focused on the other races. And then I saw the stretch run of the UAE Oaks and went back and watched and did some research on the winner, Queen Azteca. And she's just a really, really cool filly. I mean, I know that the race was a bit slow. It was super
Yeah.
slow, but I mean, how cool is that horse, she started out here, she was purchased as a yearling at Keeneland for like 20,000. I mean, and then she was brought over to Norway after going through like the Tattersalls digital sale. She
Yeah.
debuted sprinting on the turf, and then she went a little longer on the turf and lost. And then I think, right when she switched to the dirt, she won by like 20 lengths, granted
Yeah.
over in like Sweden. So we'll see how she
Don't diss
stacks
on Sweden. Don't diss on
up.
Sweden. We have some good Swedish harness racing over there. Shout out to my friend Steve Marr who lives over there. But yeah, I mean, you don't usually see horses on the Oaks Trail that start sprinting on the turf in Norway and then freak on the dirt in Sweden and then show up to the UAE Oaks next. And we have the stretch run. And I'll be honest, part of the reason I forgot is the UAE Derby, of course, is not for another month during that Dubai World Cup Festival. And so
Mhm.
I just assumed, oh, the UAE Oaks is probably the same, on the undercard of the day before, and
Right.
completely lost track of the fact that it was on Friday. And so here you see the stretch run, and you'll see Sweet Azteca, or Queen Azteca, I should say, coming up on, trying to make up ground to what a horse that was lone speed on the front end. And
Mhm. Yeah,
like,
and
it's a pretty incredible story.
you really thought that she wasn't going to get there, and she did. And you can see,
Right.
she improves with more ground in front of her clearly. And I know they cut off the gallop out, but I know that she kept going, and he had to pull her up a little bit. So I mean, that was pretty good to see. And yeah, it's just a story that you really love to root for. I mean, how many people go to Keeneland September and pick up a yearling for 20,000, and then they have a spot in the starting gate for the Kentucky Oaks, which everyone dreams of things like that. So I'm really rooting for her. And, obviously a horse with a huge family like her, you're going to wonder why she sold, for 20,000 at Keeneland September. I mean, even the horses that might not be the most physically correct, can still run. And she happens to be one of those cases that, can run through those things. She has a big family. The second dam or the third dam is my flag. The fourth dam, personal ensign. So, I mean, she has some big family members to help her out if she does end up going to the Oaks. I hope she does. It would be great.
Yeah, listen, I hope she does too. I mean, that would be an awesome story, right? I mean, yeah, you're right. Like a very modest purchase and debuting. It reminds me a little bit of, and he wasn't on the Derby Trail, but it reminds me a little bit of the horse Kabir Khan, who was like running in Kazakhstan in what like looked like a glorified wheat field. And next thing you know, he's like running in the UAE, in the Dubai World Cup, and just, this it's an incredible story about how sometimes you can start with very humble and modest beginnings. And next thing you know, a horse figures it out on the track, or some of maybe some of the vet stuff that, could have been a red flag, maybe clears up as the horse gets a little bit older, and, some things just kind of work themselves out. So yeah, what an incredible story, and certainly hope to see her come over. And important to point out that if you go to the Kentucky Derby website and you look at the list of and the point totals, you really just see the North American horses listed. But by winning the UAE Oaks, she pretty much punches her ticket to come over here in terms of
50
qualifying.
points, yeah.
But she's just on a separate list of international runners. And so that's why you might not see her on the total list that we'll show you in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it was a huge effort. We'll see. I mean, it'll be fun to follow the connections and check that out. But that was a lot of fun. And listen, we had the Saudi Derby as well this past weekend. That's not a points race, but obviously leading up to what will be the UAE Derby and will be a points race. And we've obviously saw a horse like Forever Young come out of that. One of the things I will say, and listen, if you want to hear me talk about Forever Young, tune in tomorrow to the Win Play show. I'm going to wax poetic about that horse. And I know Kaylie could probably go off on a tangent about that one too, because we both love this horse. But last year, Forever Young ran the Saudi Derby 2 full seconds faster than this year's edition of the Saudi Derby, which also means Bookham Dano ran 2 full seconds faster than last year's than this year's Saudi Derby. I mean, those 2 horses put on a show last year. So I don't know the caliber of the horses coming out of that Saudi Derby compared to last year. It'll be interesting to see if Japan brings over any other horses to the UAE Derby for that kind of automatic qualifier to the Kentucky Derby. But we'll just keep an eye out for all of that. But listen, from Maidan to Florence, Kentucky, and the all-weather track at Turfway Park Friday night under the lights, we had a big Cincinnati Trophy race, and that was for the Oaks. And you had the horse White Rocks just absolutely steal this thing on the front end. I mean, this was one of the more visually stunning moments when this horse is 10 lengths clear of the field at one point. You're like, this horse can't possibly hold on, but ultimately holds on in what was a crazy stretch run.
Yeah, it looked like, everyone else was really done for, which they were. I mean, the horse ran a good race up on the front end. I definitely, out of this race, really like the number 10 Admit. I mean, as soon as I saw her in the paddock, I didn't really know, much about her. As soon as I saw her there, I had my eye on that one for sure. But the way that, she was able to at least make up some ground towards the end and ran on. And she actually, I think, passed the winner in the gallop out as well. So, and I always love a Blame filly. If you think about it, Blame as a sire is always, really good with the fillies, more so even than colts. So that was something that also stuck out to me. And we had a horse 2 years ago, Wet Paint by Blame as well on the Derby Trail. So, on the Oaks Trail. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I definitely take that number 10 out of there for sure.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And I wanted to show the gallop out in that clip because, listen, God bless White Rocks, but about 4 horses passed her on the gallop out. So it's hard to, and she only came back with a 78 buyer speed figure. So all credit to the connections getting that 20 points. That probably does not secure your spot in the starting gate. But you would imagine some of those horses coming from off the pace are the ones that you want looking forward coming out of this race in terms of being able to get a little bit more distance. And yeah, I mean, the crazy part about that race, though, there was a little bit of a speed bias, I think, over the weekend at Turfway Park. When and that's one thing to pay attention to on synthetic tracks. When temperatures drop, the track tends to contract, and you tend to see front end speed do a lot better. think about it like you're on the beach, and it's easier to run down by where the water is, where the sand is a lot more tight and compact than when you're running through kind of the fluffier sand up higher. It's a little bit like that with regards to freezing and thawing. And so when the track is cold, the front end speed tends to do a little bit better. And the fractions weren't crazy. I mean, it was like 110, 112 and 3 to the 6 furlongs. And this horse was still, I mean, to some extent, it's on the rest of the jockeys in the colony. Like, you can't let a horse get that far clear and then have to make up 10 lengths in the stretch. Like, you're only going to be able to do so much. So we'll see. But yeah, White Rocks is kind of a toss for me next time out, because there's no way that horse is getting that trip again.
Yeah, definitely not. But definitely the number 10, I'd love to see run back. I mean, curious to see where she points to next. I thought that one looked pretty good out of that whole group. But yeah, good thing for White Rocks, got 20 points on the way to the Oaks. So nice win still, nonetheless.
Yeah, and I think Admit's a nice horse. Tom Drury Jr. is the trainer, familiar with, Turfway Park. She's going to stay right there in that circuit, I think. And she'll run back in the next series of preps that they have. So looking forward to that. But listen, there was also the John Battaglia Memorial the next night at Turfway Park. And this one was for the boys. And again, you saw it kind of, I think, front end speed doing really well in the form of California Burrito and Baby Max, who basically were kind of linked up on the front end the whole way around, and were able to kind of, get the job done up front and put away everybody else. But yeah, you see California Burrito there, just, up on the front end there on the inside. And again, there's not a lot of analysis in terms of gate to wire. I will say, the Maximum Security that you and I both liked, Maximum Promise, was really the only horse to make up a ton of ground in this race. So again, moving forward, that's one that I would seem to want to have out of this race.
For sure. And I guess that was a similar reason as to why we, liked him in here, is he did the same thing in his prior start. So, I mean, I have to watch the replay. I'm pretty sure he came from last, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm kind of curious as to if he were to sit a little bit closer, if that would put him in a more favorable position to get there, now that it's, 2 starts like that. But definitely still one that I have my eye on, and still put in a good effort. I think nonetheless, but.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should point out, glacial fractions compared to the other race, even the White Rocks race. So they went, 24-2 opening quarter, fine, but slow. 49-2 opening half, again, fine, but slow. 114 to the 6 furlongs. So they're taking their sweet time. And so for a horse like Maximum Promise to close on a 114 to the 6 furlongs on a speed favoring track, I don't know, that to me, that shows this horse has some ability moving forward, and that you could end up getting a nice price next time out. And this one gets an 80 buyer speed figure for that effort, and bounces back from a 74 in the Lecomte. So I thought that one for Kenny looked pretty good. And again, if that horse gets off to a better start or just gets a better pace setup, could easily move forward next time.
I agree. I really like that one. And also, it's funny. I mean, now that this one's starting to move along, you're also seeing a lot of the Maximum Securities starting to pop as well. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I think there were like a couple in the last few days that have put on some big performances. So pretty interesting to see that as well. It took some time for them to get going, but I mean, with the more distance added, I mean, you kind of figure that that's the way it was going to go. But I'm happy to see them start popping up for sure.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I mean, to some extent, it reminds me a little bit of what we saw this summer with even McKenzie's, where the McKenzie's, if you remember, kind of got off to a slow start. Like, there weren't a lot of, they were running well, but not winning. I think he only had one winner before Chancer, maybe. And it was like kind of a slow, like, what's going on here? Like, these McKenzie's are like 1 for 29, 1 for 30 debuting. And meanwhile, the Vacomas are winning everything. Vacoma and Complexity are winning the world, and everybody's going nuts. And it's like, oh, well, once we stretch out to 7 furlongs and a mile and a 16th, well, here comes the McKenzie's, and they start just sweeping up and doing really well. And I think you're seeing that to a lesser extent with the Maximum Securities. Now, some of these Maximum Securities who are stretching out, now suddenly they're doing a little bit better. And it's not, the 5.5 furlong sprints and things like that you see early in a 2-year-old campaign and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely a horse if that horse stays down there in Turfway, that's definitely the horse out of that race I will want to bet back out of those top 3.
For sure. I completely agree with that.
Yeah. So, listen, so that's what was going on at Turfway Park. And we should say, listen, Turfway, Rich Strike, Animal Kingdom. 2 years ago, you had 2 fills do his final prep in the Jeff Ruby Stakes and then go and run a massive race at the Kentucky Derby. We've seen that transition from the synthetic at Turfway to Churchill. And we've seen it not just with the Kentucky Derby. If you pay attention to the races at Churchill, Turfway shippers do well at Churchill Downs. That transition from the synthetic there to the dirt at Churchill is one that a lot of horses enjoy and that they can run well over that dirt at Churchill Downs. So, just because these aren't maybe Brad Cox horses and, Chad Brown and Todd Pletcher and Bill Mott and, maybe they're connections that come from smaller barns, less well-known barns. These horses you got to take seriously because the winning horse there, California Burrito, got a 92 buyer speed figure. So, I mean, that's completely legitimate number, even if I'm going to be betting against that horse next time out because of the trip. But, that transition from Turfway to Churchill, I should say, it works. And we've seen it work over the last few years. But let us go to Sunday. And, Kaylie, I don't know what mind space you need to be in to watch this next clip, because in the Honeybee all year, going back to last year, you had hyped up Quietside to me. How nice she looks, how much you love her, how great she is. She's on your list. We made excuse after excuse for this horse. Last time, you bailed on Quietside. And I was standing there alone on the top of the mountain saying, I like this horse. This is the time she gets home. And son of a gun, if she doesn't finally get home to win the Honeybee at 10-1.
Great pick on top. You put her on top. I put her third because I thought that she was so live that she would go off at 4-1 or 3-1. To be honest, every single time that horse steps onto the track, she looks so good that I assume that she's going to take more money than she ever is on the morning line. When I saw her at 8-1 on the morning line, I was shocked still. I thought that, clearly it was a good morning line. She went off at 10-1, but I thought that I was going to go for a big price there in a race I thought was wide open with Quick Kick. When I saw Quick Kick step onto the track, I knew that she was going to need a start. And then when I saw Quietside go up to 10-1, I bet her to win. And then I even went back and bet more on her to win right as they were loading into the gate, because how am I not going to? But yeah, that's a horse I've been riding with since last year. I'm so happy that she got the win. I thought it set up nice for her, but she also ran huge. And I think that she looks immaculate. She's like popping out of her coat. And I'm really excited. I've always said, as so long as she gets to the starting gate, she's going to hit the board in the Oaks. That's how I feel. She always shows up. She's just a great.
She does always show up.
So happy that John Ortiz got the win with her, and happy for the connections.
For sure. No, Johnny Ortiz has had a really ice cold oak lawn meet, and he's a guy who, a lot of people, myself included, have a ton of respect for, and the way he runs his barn and the way he handles and deals with people. And so, he had Brightside a couple of years ago, and always like that horse, and now Quietside, who, is just, or I should say Brightworks, not Brightside. That's my friend went to a Killers show the other night, and now I'm thinking Mr. Brightside. No, that's the wrong musical reference. We got to get to. Sorry about that. So Brightworks, Quietside. That's the difference between the two horses. But
we've been waiting for this for a long time, me and you, since the summer when we saw her. So I'm really happy.
I know. I am too. I'm really happy for her as well. And she ran a big race, and she's never missed the board. And, and Jose Ortiz, I thought, gave a great ride. And that was the one thing we talked about. This horse needs a good ride, and it makes all the difference in the world. And you see the stretcher on here, and, 5G's on the inside, Quietside there, kind of looming up, takes the lead, and Muhima, who was your odds-on favorite, was sitting third most of the time, didn't get to the lead like she did in the Demoiselle, and you thought maybe she's going to loom up, and no, Muhima flattens out, and Quietside just keeps finding more. I thought, 5G, I know, really dug in, and I thought ran a big race for second, but Quietside ultimately gets the win with an 86 Beyer speed figure.
Yeah, 5G really surprised me. I mean, I knew that horse was going to play a big role in the beginning of the race, and I thought that
Yep.
that was going to be the one to apply a lot of pace pressure on Muhima, which, she just got the lead there. I mean, I thought that the look forward horse would have played more of a role there, but
yeah, she kind of blew
didn't.
the brake. I mean, that was that was a bad start for her. I felt bad because that was the second time in a row we've seen a horse. I think her laugh, the same sort of thing happened where it's like, now it's over at the break, and you didn't get to really see her best run.
Right. But yeah, I mean, what we were talking about last week about Muhima is so long as I never saw her as a rating type of horse or a horse that could sit like a length or two behind. I never really saw her as that because we were saying how she's such a big filly that I feel like it takes a lot, to get a horse like that moving and going again. I mean, if she's uncontested up on the front end, I still think she's super dangerous, but I mean, and I'd like to see her try to rate again for sure, but I mean, she just was no match for Quietside and even 5G, who stuck to the pace as well. So 5G really impressed me there. And Muhima, I think that horse is going to win like the test one day or something. That's what she strikes me as, that type of horse. But I like to see her try, next time out, see what happens. But yeah, that definitely put her a little lower on my list for sure.
She's such a big bodied filly. And you do wonder, I mean, you're right. She's not agile in that regard. She reminds me a little bit of Tapit Trice, another gray, who was, again, never an agile horse and was now different running styles. Tapit Trice coming from off the pace. But again, a lot of the issue that Tapit Trice would have is he needed to be in the clear. Even if he was traveling wide from the back, he just needed to be in the clear. He had that long stride, and you were never going to maneuver him around horses. Like, that's just not what he does. Yeah. Seems like Muhima's kind of the same way, like getting her maneuvered around. She looked really uncomfortable around the first turn, having to check up and rate and take kickback and all of that, and then angle out and just, you could tell. And it was also, to be fair to her first race back from a little bit of a layoff, having not run since the Demoiselle. And, we'll see.
Quick Kick
obviously has a lot of good fillies, but, it's notable.
Yeah, and Quick Kick, I think, ran fifth, right? Fourth or fifth, but she was coming at the end. I thought she ran a decent race off the layoff. Again, when I saw her, I was like, I think she needs to start. But for sure, next time out, I'm curious to see how she runs back, and I'd take her next time out after that effort off the layoff. I thought she didn't run poorly. I think she ran pretty well. So
yeah, I think so too. And that's one where you'll see. I think I think you're right. You'll see a big progression from her next time out in terms of getting a little bit more ready. And Tom only gave her 4 workouts leading up to this race, so he clearly didn't have her all the way cranked. But getting that 5th place, and she actually gets a couple of Kentucky Derby points as a result of that 5th place finish. Or Kentucky Oaks points, I should say. So she does get a little bit of points there for that one, but. Yeah, big win for Quietside and Johnny Ortiz and Jose Ortiz. Really happy for the connections. Happy for myself because my day on capping the card was not doing so great, and then all of a sudden Quietside won, and everything was fine. Everything was fine, and it's a prime example of, like, you don't have to be right often if you're right on the right horse, and so that's always a good lesson to bettors. And also, don't give up on your picks. That's another, like, even no matter how ice cold your day is, it can all turn around in one race. So definitely, remember to stay true to that stuff. But listen, let's close it out with the Rebel anticipation. You had Sandman, you had Matticat Road, you had all these big name horses, big name connections, Bob Baffert, Mark Cassie, you had Steve Asmussen with a bunch of horses, and Lonnie Briley, and a horse that started its career at Evangeline Downs, sired by Coal Front for $2,000, and shows,
Mhm.
again, is a perfect 5 for 5 as Cole Battle takes the Rebel in what was just an awesome moment for the whole weekend.
Yeah, I was, very happy for that horse. That's definitely his big one. I hope that, he continues on for sure. I mean, I really liked him going in there. I think I had him third or something or fourth just
Yeah.
because of how versatile he was. And we saw that, come into play, and that makes him pretty dangerous. The fact that, he can win in a few different ways. So, and he just looked amazing when he stepped out on the track. I mean, I think we were texting and we were like, he looks
Yeah.
pretty good today.
Yeah, he does.
Really nice price, but yeah, really happy for that horse. I definitely think Mattakit Road ran a really big race. I mean, I can't lie, at compose time I bet Mattakit Road. He just looks so good when he stepped out onto the track. And I thought still that he ran a really good race as well. He set some fast fractions, and he was overtook by a horse that was able to save energy and get the right sort of trip, and still he ran pretty well. But I definitely thought Mattakit Road put on a big performance as well.
Yeah, and listen, it was a big performance, and first of all credit to Cole Battle. What a
Yeah.
great effort, and what a great ride. Juan
Hmm.
Vargas gave that horse, and credit to Lonnie Briley for sticking with the local jock and going, listen, you dance with the one that brung you. You dance with the jockey that got you to this point. And we've seen the bad juju sometimes come back and hurt trainers and horses when they make that jockey switch. Well, I'm going to upgrade to somebody else. Listen, stick with the guy who knows the horse. And Juan Vargas clearly knows this horse. We talked about his versatility. Can win gate to wire, can win rating off the pace.
Hmm.
Rated off the pace because it was really hot. He had that horse in a perfect spot from breaking on that inside rail, sitting basically fourth or fifth most of the way. Let there be a pretty significant break up to those top 3 or 4 that were really kind of, gunning it to the front, and made the move at the right time and loomed up, got there. It was a great ride. And you feel
Hmm.
great for the connections who've already said, we're going to the Arkansas Derby. We're
Hmm.
not going to, put this horse on the bench, even though we basically secured our spot in the Kentucky Derby. We're running in the Arkansas Derby. Came back with a 91 buyer speed figure. So not a huge number, admittedly. And we'll have to kind of wait and see if he can move forward from this in the Arkansas Derby. But he's a perfect 5 for 5. He's never done anything wrong. He has versatility, like you said. He got the right sort of trip, but he's got the ability to give himself the right type of trip all the
Hmm.
time. And that's
For sure.
something which I don't
Yeah.
think you can always quantify with a horse.
No, that's such a cool horse. I mean, that's a competitor. The fact that he's so versatile makes him super dangerous moving forward. I'm excited to see him run in the Arkansas Derby for sure. And yeah, definitely was really happy. And he was at a big price too. I was pretty surprised about, the price that he went off at. So
Yeah.
pretty good. But yeah, definitely. I mean, Sandman, we both,
Yeah, let's have the Sandman discussion because
yeah.
Sandman broke well, unlike last time, broke well, and inexplicably, I will just say,
Mhm.
inexplicably was taken all the way back to third to last, basically. And
Yeah.
I don't understand the logic. If you had a horse that comes running like hell at the end, the last 2 times out, and you need to get this horse closer, and you keep this horse all the way in the back. And then, hey, son of a gun, what does he do again? Same song, second verse, run like heck the last furlong and come up short. And so
Yeah.
it's
It was
frustrating.
it is frustrating. I mean, he showed a ton of fight, in his start before, and after that unfortunate start to the point where I thought he was going to run so much better getting a clean start. Definitely the fact that he fell so far back after getting that good start and still wasn't able to get there. When you saw other horses, making up ground
Yeah.
was
I mean, look at
definitely
him. He's
really,
flying
yeah.
late in this race.
Yeah, but it's insane to me. I mean, not insane. Obviously, he's a horse that could come back and win. I mean, I just don't
Yeah.
think I'm going to be able to take him again, at least not on top after, now twice that were a
Yeah.
few times that, but he's still a nice horse nonetheless. He definitely went off at a very, very short price though. And I
Yeah.
was right
You
off
knew
of him when I saw that.
Yeah, you knew you were never going to get the 4-1 morning line. And listen, for everybody who loves the gallop out, well, yeah, he won the gallop out. But at some point, that doesn't cash checks. That doesn't pay bills.
Yeah.
Winning the gallop out. I don't see any trophies for people winning the gallop out. I don't see. Nobody remembers. The winners of the gallop out. So
And
it's one of those things where
yeah,
at some point you got to cross the wire first.
exactly.
And
And I thought that, sorry.
no, no,
I
no, go
thought
ahead.
that Matticat Road, I mean, I think really flattered Rodriguez too with that performance. And when you think about it, if this is Baffert's like fifth or sixth best horse, maybe, I see the whole Derby going through him. I mean, in my opinion, I can't believe that a horse like that is probably his fifth or sixth best. And I thought that one flattered the other Bob Baffert horses he has run against, the performance that he put on there. So, and he had another horse debut yesterday, Cornucopian,
Yeah,
something. Yeah, I think I'm saying it right, but
yeah,
ran
you are.
faster, ran the fastest of any horse that day, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. So that one, I mean, he still has them popping up, and that's a
yeah,
little scary. I mean, he's going to be pretty loaded. And when you talk about the dynamics of how that's going to play out, when you have like five horses like that, they can kind of, it's, I think a lot of it, the discussion at least starts, with his group, his core group of colts for sure.
yeah. And listen, I've been very high with a lot of Baffert runners. I think there's a very good chance that he's going to win the Kentucky Derby this year with one of them. I do think it's funny how you and I have very different takes on Matticat Road. Um, I I think Matticat Road was greatly helped by the track. Admittedly, the other front end speed faded back. He stayed on, as Baffert horses tend to do. And so, definitely showed that ability. Here's the question, though. Explain to me what the hell happened in the last race where this horse was sitting fourth to Citizen Bull and Rodriguez, please. If anything, this makes me question Citizen Bull because that was a phony victory last time out and a paid workout, basically. And so now you have a horse like Matticat Road that can really go. And let's be honest about Citizen Bull. His best two victories have been merry-go-round trips on West Coast tracks. And so, if anything, I think Matticat Road's effort kind of pokes holes in some of the horses that you go, well, you got a really sweet setup, and you didn't actually have to face the best of your stablemate because your stablemate was being intentionally rated for one reason or another to let
Yeah.
you have the lead. Because there's no way that you can tell me Matticat Road can quarter horses to the first turn in the Rebel, but somehow can't to the lead.
Yeah.
Of course he can. So it's one of those things where I think it calls into question maybe what happens when some of those other horses get pressed, and that's always been the issue with the California prep races is you're watching talented horses. Like as a horse racing fan and analyst, you're watching talented horses, but you're also watching a race where 80% of the field is trained by one person, and you go, how much of this is just, hey, listen, this is the way I want this race to play out. I want this horse to get this experience today. I want that horse to get this experience today, so on and so forth. Well, how do you extrapolate that to the next race then? So, I think we'll see. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
And
I
you
mean,
bring up a
I
great point with
definitely
Cornucopian.
I think Matticat Road is nicer than Rodriguez and Citizen Bull. Even just physically, I prefer Matticat Road. I really like him, but I definitely think, he still is like fourth or fifth best out of the Bafferts, and that's a little concerning. I mean, definitely with the dynamics. And if that horse was to go a mile and a quarter uncontested, I mean, I really wonder.
There's no way he's going uncontested.
I
There's
know,
no
but
way
I'm
they're gonna.
saying,
I mean, this is the Kentucky Derby. Everybody's gonna send to the first turn. So if we've learned anything the last few years is that you want to be finding those horses that like to at least sit a
yeah, I'm
tracking
just
trip,
saying
if
if
not
he
closing.
did, he has the pedigree to
Yeah,
just keep going. So
yeah.
I really like
And so
him.
we'll see, time will tell. But I think you're right about Cornucopian, who was the Baffert runner who broke its maiden on the undercard on the Rebel Day with Irad up. And earned a 101 buyer speed figure, which I think was the second. I think the horse that won the Razorback Alexander Helios, I think, ran a 102. So, I mean, yeah, by a point, it was kind of the second fastest for the day. But listen, was incredibly impressive. And a point that I know was made online and that I've kind of thought about as well, which is Bob doesn't ship a maiden to Oaklawn for no reason. Like, he clearly shipped that horse to Oaklawn to be like, let's see how he travels. Let's see how he takes to the track. And Arkansas Derby's probably next for this type of a horse. So that's exciting. To see
very
that, because that's another horse that showed a lot of good speed and could be up on the front end. So again, when you talk about pace dynamics, who's controlling these things, we'll have to wait and see. But it was a fun race. It was a fun race, and it left the Kentucky Derby standings in a little bit of a new spot. And we see Cole Battle taking over the Derby point lead from Citizen Bull, Getaway Car Built, Matticat Road, Sandman, and Speed King with 25 or more points. There are 5 horses tied with 20. Disco Time, California Burrito, Burnham Square, who's running this weekend in the Fountain of Youth, Captain Cook, and John Hancock. And then on the Oak side, our girl Quietside jumps all the way up to the front. Good Cheer, Tenma, Lacara. Those 4 seem to really be in a class by themselves, with 5G kind of getting close to qualifying for that starting gate. Muhima's right there. Eclatant, unlikely to be on the Oaks Trail, but certainly has 23 points. And then a bunch of horses, Take Charge Milady, White Rock, Simply Joking, Running and Gunning, all with 20. So still going to be a lot of changes over the next few weeks, obviously, with the 50 and then eventually 100-point preps. But starting to see some stratification. You're starting to see some of the horses rise to the top on these lists.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm so happy to see Quietside up top there. And June and Tenma, I feel like that's the top 3 is really strong, even the top 4 of the Oaks. I mean, really, really
well, speaking
strong.
of that, let's go and unveil our top 10s and our top 10 list. And I'll start with you, Kaylie, with your top 10 for the Oaks. And yeah, I mean, I think this is a fun list to make right now. And you have a little bit of a different order than the points standings, but Quietside definitely made a big move up for you in your top 10 list.
Yeah, I've been waiting for a reason to move her all the way up, and definitely now have a little bit of a reason to move her to 3rd. So, I mean, Good Cheer, I don't know how much we touched on that last week, but definitely thought she overcame getting boxed in on the rail, and short field pace dynamics that didn't quite set up for her. I thought that she ran really well there, and she's just a big competitor. So I have her on top. And then Tenma, curious to see where she, the entries for the prep at Santa Anita this weekend on Sunday.
Yeah, Santa Isabel. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not sure about that, but I mean, still have her 2nd. And then, yeah, Quietside took a big jump up after everything we touched on with her. Lacara stayed about the same. And I just bumped Muhima down a little bit just after that. But yeah, Cipriani put in a nice bullet work the other day. So I'm excited to see, where she goes. And yeah, the bottom of my list remained about pretty much the same.
Oh, it's gonna be a lot of fun to see horses like Ballerina Doro kind of run back here in the Busher and some of these other preps that we're gonna see this week. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. But yeah, gonna be a lot of fun to see that list. And so over on my side, listen, this is a big weekend because the top 2 horses on my list the top 3 horses on my list are all running this weekend. The top 2 of them are facing off against each other. Barnes and Journalism. Journalism's a horse I just keep getting more and more impressed with when I'm watching the workouts, when I'm going back and watching the races. I've always liked him. He's always been on my list as soon as he came back on the workout tab. But he's a horse that I just keep growing in fondness of. And Barnes, admittedly, is going to have to pass a lot of tests this weekend in the San Felipe. And it's going to have to go 2 turns, and it's going to have to face some pretty tough competition in the form of Journalism and others. But I just see those 2 as being so supremely talented. And I just think they have a real opportunity to make a huge statement this weekend in the San Felipe. Burnham Square, a really nice horse I like from that Holy Bull, who's going to be running back in the Fountain of Youth, facing off against Sovereignty, who's also a little bit lower on my list. And the only reason Sovereignty's lower on my list in the 9th position is because the horse has had an unusual workout pattern leading up to this 2025 debut. The horse basically worked out on Christmas Eve, then didn't work out for 3 weeks, came back mid-January, worked out, then didn't work out for 2 weeks, and really has only had 3 regular works leading up to this Fountain of Youth. So I just don't know if he's 100% cranked up for this effort. And so I'm a little kind of guarding against things a little bit, but there's no doubt there's talent there. Chancellor McPatrick, we're going to see in a couple of weeks at the make his 2025 debut at the Tampa Bay Derby. That's going to be a lot of fun. But listen, Citizen Bull and Cole Battle, while I don't think either of those horses is necessarily a prime win candidate for the Kentucky Derby, they're both in the starting gate, which is more than I can say for a lot of these other horses that are on my list. So I know they're going to be there the first Saturday in May, which is why they're there. Disco Time's a horse that I think also his standing has increased in my mind because that Lecomte has come back stronger and stronger. And he won that race with admittedly a slow time, but we've seen horses run back bigger speed figures from that race, most notably Magnitude and Built. But we've seen some other ones coming back running well. We have Calling Card coming out of that race who's going to be running up here in the Gotham this weekend up here in New York. So, and then Chunk of Gold, who finished second. I think we kind of forget that horse, but that was a horse that made the transition from synthetic to dirt in that Risen Star and ran a really good second. So I think that's a horse there. And yeah, Sandman, I put in 10th because I don't know if and I like Christian Torres, the jockey, to be clear. I'm a big fan of his. But either he needs to ride that horse differently or there needs to be different instructions / training strategy with Sandman because you can't break as well as he did and be taken all the way back and then come running like heck at the end. So until there's a little bit of a strategy change, I'm with you. Hard to kind of bet on that horse with just not knowing what type of trip he's going to work out the next time. So those are the top 10s. And listen, there's going to be some more changes because we got some huge races this upcoming week. We got the Gotham up here in New York, Sand Devil versus Sacrosanct. That's going to be a fun showdown. You got Fountain of Youth, Sovereignty, Burnham Square, River Thames. Big weekend for the New York breds. And then you got the San Felipe as well, which is Barnes, Journalism, Rodriguez, all these horses likely out there in California. Over on the Oak side, you got the Busher, the Devonadale, the Santa Isabel. That's going to be a lot of fun out west with, maybe 10 million Cipriani again. So, yeah.
Ramify, I think, in the Busher, and then Ballerina d'Oro going to Gulfstream. So I'm excited to see those two. There are two that I have kind of teetering at the bottom of my list that I'm curious to see how that will change after this weekend. But yeah, definitely really excited for the preps this weekend as well.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. But hey, everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is maybe a little bit more casual, a little bit more Kaylie and I going off about things. Kaylie's getting excited about, horses debuting and over the turf in Norway. I'm excited about, I get all agitated over different trips that I see horses get. But we're having a lot of fun here on the Oaks and Derby Trail. And we'll be back later this week to preview some of those races that we just had up on the screen and get ready. I already have a first look for the Fountain of Youth up on the YouTube channel, so you can check that out, where I just go through kind of all 8 runners in the field and kind of talk about their chances and what we are seeing out of those horses. But we'll come back later in the week with picks, analysis, the whole 9 yards, special guests, all sorts of things. So we're going to have a lot of fun. And man, we're just heating up here, Kaylie. This is going to be a lot of fun these next couple of weeks.
Yes, so excited. Definitely things are getting very serious now. And it's just going to be nonstop action until the Derby. I'm super excited for it.
Absolutely. And they're going to have nonstop content right here on NYRA Bets YouTube. So you want to make sure to press that subscribe button today to get all of our great content that we have, from race previews, full card analyses, handicapping, betting tutorials, weekly programming like this one, and so much more. For Kaylie Shapiro, my name is Matthew DeSantis. Wishing you a great and prosperous day of the races, and reminding you that my Diet Mountain Dew's done, and so therefore the show's done, and it's now post time.